Welcome back to another Askari cast. My name is Rod Van Blake, author of the Ancient Illumination series as well as Yambani Chronicles. I am joined once again by JP Jackson.
Hey, everybody.
He is the creator of Eve of Insurrection, Eve of Reclamation, and Growing in the Garden series, as well as he's the illustrator on both my Yambani Chronicles comics and Ancient Illumination graphic novels. And we are also joined by Jocelyn Short.
Hi.
She has her very own series, Bearers, as well as she's a graphic artist, concept artist, illustrator extraordinaire. There will be links in the description of this podcast when we upload them to Spotify. So if you're interested in any of our individual works, please feel free to check them out and patronize us as you feel fit. Today, we are back talking about Andor Season 2. I'm going to, yes, 2. The crew is back. I'm going to go through kind of my breakdown of the first 3 episodes, and then we'll freely discuss amongst ourselves. How did you guys feel about them dropping 3 episodes at a time? Because tomorrow, Tuesday, I think they drop another 3.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy about it. It's more content. I saw a post and somebody was like, they're basically dropping a film each week. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. We don't have to keep doing this like once episode a week thing. I'm glad they just be like, we're going to get this over with. But I am curious. I would like to know why they decided to do it, but I'm not complaining. I'm very happy with it. It's a lot to look at.
I think what you're saying is interesting about someone commenting that it's basically a movie a week. I think I would prefer that because a lot of and I know this is Star Wars, but Star Wars is Disney now. A lot of the like Disney Marvel shows have had this format where it's been an episode a week, and they feel like movies, and so they kind of feel a bit, I don't know, I guess off in their structure. And so the fact that it's released like 3 episodes at a time, it feels like a whole act complete. So them releasing the arcs as acts almost, I like that.
I heard somebody online saying that they felt that possibly Disney Plus wasn't confident about releasing them singly. For me, the first couple episodes were kind of a little hard to get through compared to last season. But once I was good for the ride, but that was the only input I really had. Other than that, I was cool. I was down for it. But there are reasons why I felt that way. Because there are mainly 3 storylines that we're dealing with in this series. Basically, Andor himself and crew and what they go through as they did this burgeoning rebellion. Then we have Mon Mothma with the politics side of things and her funding the rebellion and having to navigate the dangers of that if somebody finds out what's going on, which is why she's in the position that she's in, as we find out a continuation from last season. And then we got Dedra and Cyril, crazy asses. And we get a cameo of Director Krennic again in from Rogue One. So we start out. Here's a breakdown. Spoiler alert if you all have not seen season 2, the first 3 episodes. But we're breaking things down. We have Sinar, which is a family in Star Wars that produced the TIE fighters, for those that you don't know. And we see a TIE Avenger, which is a specific ship that he's posing as a test pilot on this planet, on Sinar 73. And he's supposed to escape with this TIE Avenger, rendezvous with somebody, and hand it off. We see this Sinar technician, looks like a thick sister that's there, and she's nervous. And my notes here say Rebel and Andor is fully awake now, because before, remember, in season 1, he was skeptical about joining anything. And in this season, she's nervous, this technician that gives him the code to take the TIE fighter. And we now see Andor giving like a little pep talk, like, the Empire is wrong, and the reason why you feel it in your bones, this is wrong, and you're acting on it. You're supposed to feel that way, but we use that fear to our advantage, basically. And he gives her a little pep talk. My boy can't fly the TIE fighter. He doesn't know how to fly it. This is a bumbling escape attempt. He ends up hitting everything in the damn hangar. Bungled that, and then he ends up getting chased by two TIE Advanced version 1s after. I'm kind of breezing through this because we're going to, if you want to talk about anything specific, we can go specifics. But he's chased by two TIE Advanced version 1 V1, which is the predecessor to Darth Vader's TIE Advanced X1 that we see in the first Star Wars film. Then we flash to Mineral, which is like this grain or farm planet that all they do is just, they have these big silos of grain, they're farming grain, and we see Bix, Brasso, and Will. I think Will is that Bix's brother from the other planet from season 1?
I honestly, I forgot his relation to her, and I was like, I'm gonna assume so. They seem related.
Yeah, and Bix is having nightmares, possibly as a result of the torture that the Imperials did before. And then we flash to Chandrila, which is the first time I think we see this planet in live action, where Mon Mothma is from. They're in prep for the arranged marriage between her daughter Leda and this money tycoon, basically because she's been funding and funneling money into the rebellion. They see, like, I guess the people that are the accountants notice the money missing, and where it's missing is dangerous for her because it's going into the rebellion. If anybody finds out, she's in trouble. So he has to kind of loan her money to kind of fill that gap and make it look like she still has the money she had. And in return, he was like, you need to promise your daughter to my son, even though at the time, I guess this must be a year later, like her daughter was about to become of age to marry. And at first, Mon Mothma does not agree, but in the tight bind, she agrees. Then we see Tay, who we hear is an old flame of Mon Mothma's. Apparently, they used to have a thing going on, but now she's married to Perrin. He's married to some other lady. I had a feeling off top when they reintroduced him that Tay was going to snitch. My boy was drinking the whole time.
I felt it too. I was like, this guy's snitch. He's off. There's something off about him.
Then we see Luthen. He crashes the party in full wig, Playboy, art dealer mode. He's in his actor mode. He's got the little wig on, the long coat and everything. He's keeping an eye. My notes say he's keeping an eye on his political assets. Mon Mothma, the dude that's fronting the money, like everybody in the sphere that could mess his thing up, he's trying to keep an eye. But he has a cover of why he's there that we find later. Then we flash back to Mina Rao, where Will is trying to shack up with one of the local girls, and we already know that's going to be a problem later when they're on this planet. Then we go back to the planet where Andor lands the TIE Avenger, and he calls out for Porco, which apparently is the dude he's supposed to meet. Well, I don't know if it's a dude, but it's the person he's supposed to meet that he's going to hand this ship off to that he wasn't trained to fly. Porco is not there. A group of rebels that apparently are stranded there take Andor prisoner, and these people are with the Maya Pei Brigade, which we've heard of them from Saw Gerrera in season 1. And he apparently does not trust Maya Pei. In fact, he calls them neo-Republicans. I guess that have the idea that after the Empire is basically taken over, they feel like they can reclaim the Republic and they're going to rebuild it again. And Saw's like, that's dead. We need to do something else that ain't gonna work. So they don't mesh because of methodology and ideology, apparently. Then we go to the Melthane or Malthane divide. And this is giving me secret villain meeting vibes. They've got this castle in the sky, and we see Director Krennic sitting at the head of a table. He's trying to mine for some stuff called calcite on a planet named Gorman. H.W. Pete says, I'm loving Mothma's story in this season, and I hope they shine a light on Bail Organa's role in bringing things together. His portrayal in Mask of Fear is very well done. Agreed. Pete, thank you for commenting. Also, I think we kind of have a feeling something's going to happen to Leda. I don't know if you guys get that notion, but I feel like something's going to happen to Leda, her daughter, because we don't see her in the films later on.
Oh, yeah, she's not in Rogue One.
And Leia kind of sounds like Leda. And, you know, Bail Organa, and speaking of Bail, he's the one that takes in Leia as an orphan and raises her as a Princess Bail Organa later on. So we'll see if that comes to pass. This is also supposed to be a top secret thing that even Grand Moff Tarkin doesn't know about. And Tarkin, as we know at the time, is still building the Death Star. So if he don't know, I wonder if this is part of the competition between like the Imperial, like high-ranking officers, because we basically see in Rogue One that he gets punked by both Tarkin and Vader. Vader force chokes him in the hallway, and Grand Moff Tarkin talks dirty to him in the hallway. Like basically, this ain't your program. When I say it's my program, it's my program. Sit down somewhere. So maybe he's trying to run some things behind the scenes without them knowing, or he's just telling them that that's what's going on. They need a reason to incite a riot or something on Gorman so that they can take resources freely. This Calcite stuff is supposed to coat the reactor lenses in the Death Star, which we know uses kyber crystals to focus the laser to destroy planets with. So one of the Imperial officers there mentions, like, if we do this and we gouge mine, it'll destroy like 800,000 lives and 9 cities, whatever.
It's destroying the planet. The planet's done.
Critic Dunk, he's like, yeah, whatever. You know, collateral damage. We'll get it done, whatever it is. And the propaganda team called the Ministry of Enlightenment is like, we could just do this political ad campaign, basically showing the Gormans as arrogant. We'll maybe put out a story that a naval officer got killed and we had to step in. You know, something with the process of their mining the twill of the spiders that did for their clothing and stuff. So, but Krennic notices that Deirdre is staying really quiet. He's like, I didn't bring you here to be quiet. I know you got a plan. Let me hear it. And Mira says that, you know, propaganda will only get you so far. You need a Gorman rebel that you can depend on to do the wrong thing. So she's already thinking, we got to incite a riot here to give us some outward justification to massacre these people. And we also know that that's how later on down the line, Mon Mothma comes to the forefront as a result of like some Gorman massacre, something that happens that makes her like step out of the shadows and become the actual face of the rebellion later on. This is one, I think, one of the insights. Then we flash back to Luthen on Chandrila. He's basically fishing for information with a young naval officer who tells us that he's stationed at Steerguard. He's like, well, where are all these naval officers going? And he says something about Steerguard. That's where he came from. Steerguard is the place where that device, the Starpath device, was stolen from in season 1, and was supposed to be giving to Luthen. They end up leaving behind. I guess he valued Andor more than he did the device. I think something happens to it where it gets blown up or destroyed, and they don't end up taking it, but he takes Andor, obviously. Tay, we flash back to Chandrila, and Tay tells Mon Mothma he's single again, apparently, because him and his wife is getting divorced. And he's living alone, and he's surprised to find out that she doesn't know, and she hasn't been gossiping with the rest of the people from Chandrila. Episode ends in a firefight between the splintered group of Maya Pei Brigade. Now, this angered me at the end of episode 2, when we find out where they actually are.
I was going to ask you, I literally wrote a note down because I recognize I recognize the structures, but I was like, what planet is this?
Yeah. That ticked me off. Like we had the bumbling Jedi and Acolyte, we got the bumbling rebels. These dudes have no survival skills. They can't get food. They're starving.
I call them bubbling bandits.
Yeah, they end up fighting each other, and the one other person that has the capability of flying a ship gets shot. Like, come on, man! Like, it's crazy. So the second episode is Sagrona Tima. The splinter group both lack food and survival skills. We see them scavenging. Rika, I mentioned that the only other one capable of flying was shot, and they're out scouring looking for her body. I think they're obvious cannon fodder. Then we flash back to Coruscant where Dedra doesn't want the Gorman job. When they come back, she's like, let me just continue looking for Andor. That's what she wants to do. I was hot on his trail. I could break the case down, and it was like her superiors like, you should have caught him. You should catch him first, then you weave the story of what he did. You basically built this lore up about this ghostly spy character that we can't find, and so now they think you just having us chasing our tails. Take this job and do with it, do the best you can here, then maybe you can move on and do other things. My boy Tay is back in Chandrila drinking his life away. So much to the point where Perrin, Mon Mothma's husband, spins a story about him having to be carried off the night prior. Like, he couldn't even walk home. We're back to Mino Rao, and they say that it's been 10 years since there's been an audit there. And this ultimately kind of ties in some of what could have been the most boring parts of Star Wars, like the politics, the economics, but it's done well here, in my opinion, and it ties in, it makes sense, and it didn't throw me for a loop too much. I don't know how you guys felt about that, the economic and political parts of this.
Yeah, for me, I think that like there were certain elements that like I knew I could connect with. The other elements kind of got lost, but I could tell that like we're kind of showing different sides. For me, I think that it's very interesting to see more of like how the empire is operating from the inside, and you get these dynamics between these like higher elite officers and this like competition. I thought that was very interesting to see how they think, and how they want, like it's giving very like much like America, like we're going to go into other countries and destabilize them. So I think there's a lot of elements. This show does a great job of kind of getting into the empire and kind of like really holding a mirror, a reflector, to our current state of where we are. Like it's I don't know, there's a lot we can kind of pull from this. But I think that it is weaved in a very interesting way. But maybe it could be a lot for some though. Just kind of moving to like, because there's a lot of characters actually we have to kind of pay attention to as well. I'm like, all right, I gotta remember who this is. I remember your faces, but then I gotta keep track of me. But Jocelyn, what are your thoughts?
To be honest with you, a lot of the political stuff is kind of going over my head because I saw the first 3 episodes, but I didn't get to see a recap of season 1. And so a lot of like the ties, like the who specific, like I guess the competition you're talking about, that is eluding me a little bit, but I'm following the main plot, and I can tell characters are connected. I can tell the characters are important and connected, but I don't know what those connections are, but I'm still able to kind of follow along what is happening. Like the main plot is very interesting to me. With what is the guy who wants to justice, who's about justice for, I guess, those 2 soldiers who got killed from the first episode.
Oh, Cyril.
Yeah. So
the 2 security guards that got killed and that's a thread that we've kind of lost. Initially, how this whole thing kicked off was Cassian looking for his sister. I haven't heard none of that. Since like that thread has been dropped and hasn't been picked up, because that was the whole reason why he was there in the first place at funnily enough, the little strip club at the planet in the beginning of season 1. Look, because he heard his sister worked at that little club.
Made me think.
But you did see Rogue One, right, Jocelyn?
I did.
Okay, because Krennic is kind of behind the scenes. They're gathering materials to complete the Death Star.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the big, like, they need all types of resources, materials. That's all going to take money. Mina Rao, this is kind of giving shades of, I don't want to say, kind of like comparable to like Nazi Germany and other wars that happened where the military would kind of move in and force these people to feed them. Because you see the imperial officers go up like, I want everybody fed. They're kind of doing that thing with this. So there are a lot that you're right, Jordan. There are a lot of parallels. I'm also seeing parallels of kind of like immigration, where they're talking about checking visas on Mina Rao, who's supposed to be there. Also because they just left that planet Phoenix, which had a kind of an uprising. So I think if they find out that their visas are not from Mina Rao, if they find out they're from that planet that just had this kind of local insurrection, that would be trouble as well. We flash back to Cyril again, playing the role at his new job that he got at the end of season 1. And we find him giving pretty much the same pep talk that he was given when he got the job. Like, there are no small jobs. And then he starts rattling off stuff like, I found these band of thieves across the galaxy. And he starts mentioning all this stuff that they were either purchasing or dealing in, basically acting like he busted up a whole crime ring through this monotonous kind of pencil pusher accounting job on Coruscant. That's what he's trying to tell this new guy. It's almost like a carbon copy of himself he's talking to. The guy seems real uptight, straight lace, super straight lace. He's got his little gray suit on. Then we flash back to Mina Rao, and Bix lies to the creepy Imperial officer because you can tell he's checking for her, like, hey, why don't you come out to dinner at the spot, later on? You can't have much rations out here. And she's like, I don't think my husband would like that very much. And then he starts asking too many questions, like, isn't he worried about you being out here? And we got, we cut communications off before we get here, so can't nobody call you right now. Be ashamed if something happened to you, And then Brasso kind of comes along just in time, and oh boy, kind of walks off for the moment. But we could tell that was going to be a problem later on. Mon Mothma back at Shangri-La, and the wedding crew go for some ceremonial hike where they're supposed to be. I guess it's tradition in Shangri-La with these weddings. They go on this hike. We go to the summit, look over the lands. Children will sing and will be purified for the wedding. So that was kind of interesting. Then we go back to the rebels. After the fight, they're both hunkered down at either ship, but only one of the ships is operational. They send some dude named Plug out to scavenge for food, and he realizes that the other splinter cell of rebels are trying to drag the TIE Avenger to be able to point the guns in the direction of the other camp with ropes. Yeah, that was super crazy. We find out Dedra and Cyril are actually shacked up. So as much as
that was a shock. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't think they would take it that far because I kind of did because we saw from the previews that they were in the same scenes and where she grabs his face, but I didn't know that they would be living together. Cyril wants to postpone dinner with moms, and she's like, no. That's when she grabs his face, like, we're not delaying this no longer. Flashback to the wedding. I call this Tay pocket watching because he's sitting there looking at the ostentatiousness of the wedding, like, I haven't seen nothing like this in a long time. Like, basically, you spent some money on this, and I'm kind of broke. My investments done went bad since the Empire took over. You funded the Empire. I know where that money's going. And he's basically shaking her down to buy his silence. And you see from the corner, everybody else is partying, and Luthen is just peeping game. Luthen's just watching him. He's got a mean mug on his face. He sips his wine, looks over at Tay, and knows that it's not going well. And then Perrin gives this little wedding toast, which is the title of the episode. And Luthen is not caught up in the emotion of the moment. I think Leda is. She looks like she's taken the words to heart, that they're like, pain is going to find you type thing. Like, you're going to have problems. You got to find, listen for the music beneath the noise and get beyond the pain, and you'll be. I think he's well wishing them to be happy in their marriage. Mon Mothma looks kind of wistful as she listens to the words because they're kind of estranged, even though they're still technically together. Then finally, the two groups come out. The two rebel groups. I thought they were gonna fight, and these fools Rochambeau, like Star Wars rock
Rock,
paper
paper,
scissors.
scissors.
And Cassian escapes while a Duda, apparently is what the creature is called, eats some of them, flies off, showing the temples of Yavin 4. So yeah, that
Yavin 4.
confirms where they are. And that made me
Why
even
are you
angry.
mad?
That made me, like, you right there. Like in a matter of months, not even a year. Remember when Leia lied to Vader in episode 4, New Hope, when she tells them that the rebel base is on Dantooine, which was a rebel base, but they had abandoned that at the time. And this was where the real rebel base was, Yavin 4. So yeah, I find that out, and like these dudes couldn't hang on for even a little bit. But he leaves. I almost stood up and cheered when the lizard creature came, ate up like 3 of them in one bite, and then he just rolls out with the ship, and I was happy. I'm like, good. Leave, get up out of there. And that was the end of the episode. And then we start episode 3. We see Cassian floating in the middle of space, kind of getting his bearings, and he's starting to try the comms. And he tries to hotwire it with he uses something to try and hotwire it. It floats off, and then they cut away from him. We see farm life as they're having this country dinner on Mina Rao. Kids are running around. The droid is joined in. All the droids seem to be joined in the plane. There's like a sprinkler droid, an agricultural droid.
What's the name of the droid that we had from last season? The red one. That's
B2E something. It's a long acronym.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the crew is nervous because they haven't heard from Cassian still. Every episode, I think they've been asking, like, "Have you got word?" And like, nope. And they find out they're next in line for the grids of inspection. The Empire's taking these. I think they're at 500. They just did 600, so they're next on the list to be inspected. I forget what the dude's name is with the salt and pepper hair, but he gives Brasso,
like Kellen or something.
Yeah, he gives him like these fake papers, like these digital, like, here's your fake passport or whatever to give to them. And like, well, I'm hoping you ain't got to use it, but it's a one-time use only type of thing. We know that's not going to go well. Mon talks to Leda before the wedding and did y'all get the impression that she was trying to talk her out of it here?
What?
When we go back to Chandrila, there's the wedding. You see Leda in her white dress.
Yeah.
Mon Mothma kneels down and stands up and basically recounts her wedding, saying, my mother was drunk when I was getting married.
Oh.
I can't even believe this. And like, you don't have to walk through there if you don't want to. We can leave right now.
Yeah, and that you can kind of sense that, like, leading up to that moment. I feel like you can sense that throughout even the scene where Parent is kind of talking about, trying to wish them well. Like, she doesn't even seem that happy.
Yeah,
like she just knows that, like, this is tradition. This is just tradition. We're just moving through this, but she doesn't seem too, like, happy about it, or like the most supportive. She's just doing this for, because she has a reasons. They got to protect the rebellion, so we got to do these things.
Yeah, and then we see, I saw Jocelyn. And then we see at the rejection, Leda rejects Mon Mothma. She's like, well, you want me drunk? She turns up. She starts tossing back drinks like crazy. She just starts. Yeah. She
became her mother. Yes.
Yeah. Then we see a bit of the marriage ceremony. We have a version of kind of a jumping over the broom. They had this big branch that they jump over. Then he asked him to step into my circle of trust. For the what was that movie with Ben Stiller? Meet the Parents.
Oh my God!
So he's like,
Meet the
step into my circle of trust.
Oh,
and then Perrin, the husband, did this trip y'all out? Hands over the ceremonial knife. We noticed that one braid is longer than the other on Leda. And then he says, do with that what you will. Like, so is the option, can I stab her too? Like, am I just not meant to cut the ceremonial braid? And I think this cutting of the braids symbolizes the cutting of the ties from your old family and welcoming you into the new family. And this was kind of cool. They transitioned from that to Deirdre holding a knife and helping with the place settings. And we find out that she's about to do the same thing for Cyril. She's about to cut the family ties because mom's
She's setting boundaries.
yeah, mom's is tripping.
She's setting
And she always
boundaries.
has been tripping.
Him.
Andor finally calls in to I forget her name, but Luthen's like right hand person.
I was like Clea or something like that.
Yeah, she's at the shop now. She's back at the arts shop, and he calls in, and he's pissed because things didn't go as planned. Porco was not at the drop. I'm not trained to fly this ship. Did you know that? And she's like, I'm gonna call Bix, and she's like, don't do that. And he's like, why not? And he's because there's basically a signal blockade. And when he hears that, he just hangs up and hits the hyperdrive. He's gonna go fly out to Mina Rao. Edie, who is Sarah's mom, we go back to Coruscant, and she's just constantly putting Cyril down the whole time. Talks about Cyril's upbringing.
Didn't he have a record?
Briefly, but I think Deirdre, the uncle has a record. That's the thing. He keeps bringing up the uncle, and the uncle is not a good. He's supposed to be taking Cyril under his wing and steering him nothing but wrong. She asked Deirdre about her upbringing, and she's like, "My parents were arrested when I was young. Basically, the Empire raised me. Like I grew up in Kinderblock or something like that." And she's like, "Oh, you didn't have no love," and she's like, "I didn't need no love. I had everything. They provided everything I needed." And Cyril can't take it. This was a funny, because we know that he's a type A personality. He wants everything perfect. That's why you see him fix the fondue knife. And he made those beautiful little cakes, or ordered them, whatever. They're nice little cakes. And my girl, Mama Edie, takes the spoon and just starts.
She was mashing it. I was mad. I'm like, this is tripo. I don't like this. It's stressing me out. Come on.
He can't take it no more. My boy needs to take a nap. He gets up from the table.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and takes the nap at that. And Deirdre lays down the law. Like, look, you're going to think about what you say before you speak to him. I'll make sure he calls you twice a month to check in on you. If you want to talk to him, don't mention none of that stuff ever again. You will have some respect around here. And it's surprising because when he wakes up and comes back, his mom acknowledges the promotions, the work he did, and all that. And it's kind of, he's like, what's going on? Like, something changed. At the wedding, they unveil the gift of the precious statue that was stolen by Rakatan invaders from Chandrila. There were supposed to be only 12 of them. There are only like a certain number of them left. It's like
5 or something.
Yeah. The Rakatans in Legends were a race that supposedly invented hyperspace travel. I don't know if they're yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Tay leaves drunk from the wedding before they start dancing, and we see Cinta. I forget Mon Mothma's cousin's name, who's also one of the lead spies that was with Cassian on his first mission with the rebels on that planet.
Yes, I think her Velsartha.
Yeah, that she sees Cinta, which is her girlfriend, that they've been split, and I think Luthen keeps them kind of separated and won't tell her where Cinta is because she's the backup assassin. Remember, Val was going to kill Cassian at the end of season 1. Like, if he snitches on us, I'm gonna just take him out. And we see Tay pull up to this limo, and the normal driver's not there. She's like, where? He's like, yeah, where's homeboy? Like, where's my regular driver? Oh, he had to leave for the night. And I was thinking in that moment, I'm like, we're not seeing Tay no more.
That's what I said too in my head. I'm like, you're gonna die, buddy. I'm like, she should crash that car.
Yeah, Val and Cinta briefly lock eyes as she hops in and drives away with Tay. I don't think we see Tay again. He's gonna get killed because we know he's about to snitch and tell everybody. And he's trying to. They were trying to agree on a number. That's what he's saying. Like, I'll come up with a number. You're gonna pay me that number, and then I'll be quiet. And if you capitulate to that, you're always going to be beholden to them. So I think, and I don't know if Mon Mothma at the time has the stones to do it, but Luthen for sure is like, I don't have dreams no more. I'm married to the dark. I've given up living a life of peace a long time ago. When we had that long soliloquy at the end of season 1, when he gave up the other Imperial officer that basically told them they were about to be investigated, and he left him to die. He was like, "Sorry, your cover's blown, buddy. You're a loose end. You got to go. I've given up living with peace. I know I'm not going to live a life of peace, so it's a wrap for me. Too bad, too sad. You won for the cause. Power to the people. I'm out.
You out of here.
Yeah, so he's not going to have any compunction about killing Tay before he whispers a word of what's going on. And then finally, towards the end, we see that Imperial officer that was trying to get with Bix the first time. He tries to force himself upon her, which Will is off with the local trying to say goodbye and ends up leaving his speeder out front right when they get inspected. So he can't just walk out there and hop on the speeder. Now he's got to run through the grain fields to try and get back, which delays things. Ends up getting my boy Brasso killed. At the last minute, Cassian swoops in on the TIE Avenger, kills a lot of the Imperials, blows up a grain silo, and ends up landing on the planet to pick them up. And they fly off at the end of the episode, and we see Bix and Will looking super sad.
Everybody's shaking up. Lost the man's Bronson.
Will couldn't keep it together for the team. He's doing his own thing. Like, come on, man. We knew we had a appointed place of duty to be at to leave on time, and you off gallivanting.
He's frolicking. He was frolicking.
Yeah,
That's
he
what
was frolicking.
He was frolicking.
Tell me we gonna frolic. He was off frolicking. So I think we got off to a good start. The rebels on Yavin 4 were getting on my nerves. That was basically my only complaint, is them just being knuckleheads, and serious lack of leadership left to them just crumbling. They just imploded on themselves. And Cassian saw it. Because he was kind of questioning things in Neelan, like, they trust you? Every time
he was putting them hard
he was poking holes in the armor, whoever they left. Yeah. And they were just dumb enough to fall for it. I don't recall if he was familiar with that ship that they had crashed in. Because remember, he kicks that drawer open, and he knew there was a blaster in there.
Yeah, he did.
When they were out there doing rock, paper, scissors before the lizard thing attacks him, the Duda. How are you guys feeling about the first 3 episodes?
So on my end, I feel like, the bumbling rebels were. There was one point where I was like, all right, Cassian has to get out of here. Of course, he's gonna get out of here. It was like, how long have we been sitting with the bumbling idiots? I thought that was entertaining. I don't know. It was a reminder of like, just sometimes like they're just curveballs that are thrown at you, and then you have to learn to pivot. You have to find a way out of the situation. So it was kind of like really interesting to see Cassian kind of like think his way out of it, try to get out of the situation, and then certain circumstantial things happen, like them playing rock paper scissors, and then that creature showing up and killing them was like, all right, he's gonna take advantage. So he was always keeping his eye on everything. That was the thing. So it was like, I kind of got this sense that he was very just observant. So it's like, if he found like it didn't seem unrealistic for him to like find that storage area where that gun was, because he's throughout this episode, these series of episodes, we're cutting and moving to different places, and at this point, I'm like, Cassie is not stupid. Right. I'm like, a lot can happen. But I'm glad he got off planet, because that felt like it was slowing down. It felt like it was kind of slowing down that storyline, but then it sort of everything kind of fell into place when he made his way to, what was the grain planet? Farming planet? Mineral.
Yeah.
When he got there, I felt like that whole kind of storyline kind of picked back up. But I do think that like we are juggling, like the pacing isn't. I'm glad. It's funny because like usually I would complain that like things are moving too fast,
Yeah.
But that's not the case. It's like the complete opposite. Like the fact that we spent so much time on Yavin 4. It was like, okay, they're gonna take this much slower, which is fine. And that's kind of like like I said from earlier, getting the different perspectives of different factions in the show, like the rebels, the rebellion, as well as the empire, was like really nuanced, and really grounded, which is like why I think this show is great, is because it feels very much like real life in a way. Um, and just thinking about the Empire, Cyril, Deidre, their whole dynamic was an interesting surprise. But then I was, brought back in just how like they're navigating their relationship with his mother was just hilarious. I'm like, oh, she's setting boundaries, and she has this like it's funny because she has this like very like sternness, like coldness about her that she clearly had to. Like she was raised this way. She's very cold, so it's very like sometimes I'm like surprised like when she's being warm or affectionate. So it's like a very different side of her. So it's giving her more nuance, but it's nice to see that dynamic, how she can kind of go from these different modes.
Yeah, the fact that she stuck up for him to his mom was very telling and showed a more human side to her.
Yeah.
HWP, if you're still here, comment and let us know what you thought overall of the first 3 episodes as well, please, if you can. If you're still here. It was telling that she stuck up for somebody and she wasn't just about business. Like,
and she say what you mean too. That's why I'm like, she's not playing. She's a very good negotiator. It's like, yeah, she's not playing with you. Like these are rules of engagement. You gotta play ball. Yeah. So that was very interesting. That part was very interesting. The slimy Imperial officer guy who was trying to force himself upon Briggs, I was like, all right, you're gonna be annoying. You're gonna piss us off. This is gonna go somewhere. And then like to watch her fight scene with him was like crazy in itself. I was like, oh,
beat the brakes off that boy. Hit him with that wrench.
Hit him with that wrench. I was like, get him. And then the black guy that was driving was like, we need back. I was like, oh no. I'm like, somebody shoot him. Somebody shoot him.
And you can tell they were pencil pushers because old boy didn't want to go in there. The black dude driving the speeder was like,
he's like, hey,
sir, you all right, man? You do screaming.
And she hits him with like the shotgun. I was like, get him out of here. So yeah, I was funny because as Cassian gets to the planet, he sees the Star Destroyer, and then he like goes down to the planet. And I'm curious. I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of like assessing this character. Is like, is he looking at that as like another target, or like should I take this? Should I go after this, or do I focus on like the mission, or like getting back to my girl and our people? And then I like when he just goes, he goes down to the planet, and I'm like, he's not playing, y'all. And then starts unloading the clip. I was like, yeah, saving lives.
I was curious because this is an experimental. It's obviously an Imperial vehicle, but it's also one that they wouldn't have seen very often. They'd be like, okay, that's a TIE fighter, but that's not the normal TIE fighter. And no one kind of questions, like, except for the people in like the Imperials on the ground, the stormtroopers, they look up, they're like, what's, who called them in? Like, you don't know. And then they start firing on them. Yeah.
It's like, it's not at all snap.
Yeah, so that made sense why he was able to just go down, especially when they've cut off all communications.
Right.
No one tried to hail him or anything.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too. I'm like, I wonder if he was like, I forgot. Yeah, they closed off communications, but I figured like he was out of range to not be hailed. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, maybe he's not within range, so he just want to skirt on off, get on out of here, go save his people. So that was really good. I think this show does a really good job of capturing the grief and loss surrounded by the lives of the rebels and these supporting characters' sacrifices that are made for this larger cause. Yeah. So every time when Brasso didn't make it, I was like, y'all ain't looking too good. I was like, I know. So that guy's fault for snitching. Kill him.
Yeah, Brasso didn't make it. We see the other pilot with the rebels on Yavin 4 get shot immediately at the firefight. And then I forget the character's name, but she finds a boot.
Yeah.
Homie's foot's still in it, so we know
Yeah.
more than likely
Right.
he didn't make it. That's the cool thing about some of these shows. It shows the more down to earth, gritty ground side operations of things. It's not all just the officers, but we're also getting the political side with the officers and them trying to kind of maneuver. Like they're not just trying to punk Gorman outright just yet, because they're thinking about that ministry of enlightenment. Is like, hey, we can do a smear campaign on them first, and then put some bad news out, and then that'll justify what's to come. And Deidre Miro is like, that's not going to be fast enough to get the resources we want in time to have this Death Star ready. We just need to have a rebellion. You need some of the Gormans to rebel and have them do the wrong thing at the right time that'll allow you to step in. And I'm assuming that that's going to be something we actually see executed during the series.
I hope so. It makes sense. I mean, they've set it up, so we got to see what happens. And I feel like for me, I think what maybe the slowest part of these 3 episodes was as much as I enjoyed Chandra, like seeing Chandra, the culture, like this, their architecture was really nice. The garments, everything was dope. Like you can tell they put so much detail in this, but I do feel like it kind of slowed down the story a little bit for me. Like this whole these back dealings, these conversations, little small conversations, and got a little lost at times, but. No, I felt like I was more related to Clea, the communications intel woman. I felt like her, where I was like, hey, we got to get back on, we got to get back to Coruscant and check on everybody. Like that's how I felt. Like we got to get back to the kind of like the more engaging or just the more intense scenes, or like let's get back to the fight. But I understand the need for that context. So it was important why they showed these elements, and it helped to ground all those characters more. So like I was even like, Mothma is an interesting character. Like I learned a lot more about her in these different ways. So that part was that was a redeeming factor of it as well. So, but it was
Jocelyn,
cool.
did you peep the small talk between Clee and Vel, which we know is Mon Mothma's cousin? But they, in the beginning, when they come to the wedding party, she asked, like, so do we pretend that we were meeting for the first time, type thing? But then they meet at the art dealer shop on Coruscant. So if anybody saw them or had a recording of them meeting, if they pretend like they're meeting for the first time, I think that would let folks know that they're being deceitful. So they keep the small talk to themselves, but they don't act like this is the very first time they've met. They go and grab drinks.
Mm-hmm.
They even hint at the beginnings of possibly a formal relationship that might have fizzled out between them. I don't know if that's true or not, but they because she's with Cinta now, and Cinta's being hidden from her by Luthen. So we'll see. I'm hoping if Cinta takes Tay out, that it's not an off-camera thing. I hope we get to see.
Yeah, we need to see that. I need to see that. I need to see what they do. I'd be disappointed if they left it off screen. I'm like, nah, let this guy die on screen. He was annoying. I didn't like his face.
Any thoughts, Jocelyn?
My thoughts is I'll be more prepared next week.
Okay. I wanted to give you an opportunity here, and anybody watching be like, hey, ain't letting that girl talk.
No, I appreciate it. Everyone, for context, I was told to watch season 2 episodes 1 through 3, and that's what I thought I was watching. But when this episode started and they started talking, I was so confused, and I didn't understand why. I was aggressively looking up all the names you were talking about, all the locations, because I'm like, what are they talking about? And then you said there was a wedding, and I was like, I didn't see a wedding. What are they talking about? And then I looked back and realized what I watched. And I realized I was watching episodes 1 through 3 of the first season of Andor, not the second. So I have no idea what you all are talking about right now.
Okay.
I apologize very deeply.
You got time to watch it. You got a lot to watch.
Yeah.
At least you have a fresh context of what's happening in the first seasons, but it's still a lot of stuff to watch.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's hilarious. All good. Hopefully this week you'll be able to get caught up and we can reconvene. Next, are we doing this Monday or Tuesday next week? Which day is better?
Monday's fine with me.
Yeah,
Okay.
Monday works.
Make sure that it still works. So you will be, folks, for watching us. We will be uploading the audio to this. I don't think I'll be releasing it as a video episode. That may change to Spotify. But like again, there will be links in the description of each episode to all of our websites so you can check out our creative endeavors. Appreciate the two of you that I see with a little eyeball that you've been lurking here, watching us. HWP for giving us that comment about Mon Mothma's story, and this is kind of solidifying a lot of things for her character arc onto becoming the New Republic's first chancellor or whatever they're going to call her. I forget. The name's changed so many times over the years. What they call their president, supreme chancellor, that runs things after the empire finally falls. I do still like how this kind of dovetails into things that we're already familiar with. Episode 4, Rogue One, things of that nature. It's done well enough that I know what's going to happen to certain characters that it still doesn't bother me, and there's still enough kind of intrigue and interest in the kind of minutiae and goings on within the Star Wars world, and they're still holding my interest, at least for this. I remember season 1, the first 3 episodes was kind of the most un-Star Wars show that I had seen, because the first few episodes of season 1, if y'all remember, and Jocelyn, you should, because you just
fresh. Yeah, you just watched. It was real cyberpunk. It was real cyberpunk.
There were very few trappings of this, like clues that this was. I feel like it could take place in any futuristic sci-fi series and not necessarily be Star Wars. It was just kind of a gumshoe investigation where this dude was looking for his sister, and he gets some clues that she's working at this little script club on this planet, the security planet, and goes looking and ends up killing 2 of the security officers when they try and shake him down, and that kind of leads to a bunch of other things. But it did not look specifically like Star Wars for the first 3 episodes, and it wasn't until much later that we start seeing Imperial officers, we start seeing different types of stormtroopers, droids, but that's like 3 episodes in. And in fact, it's not till the conclusion of the season that we see that they're constructing pieces for the Death Star. At the end, we see what they're actually putting together. So that was well done, and I'm hoping this continues that vein. So any last thoughts before we sign off?
I just want to see Vader.
You want Vader?
He needs to show up, and I think he's going to show up. I thought they teased it in something, so I'm hoping it happens. So I'm wondering what capacity, but it'd be cool.
I mean, we've seen Director Krennic now, so that kind of, you're getting a little closer.
Yeah, we get a little closer. We're getting there, and we don't need Vader per se, but if he shows up again like he did in Rogue One, I'd be like, yes, I wouldn't be mad with that. It'd be a nice little ice on the cake because the show's already dope. I just want to see more people ready to fight and get with it. Cass has been doing a lot, but I want to see everybody else come together and see what they do. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Clea is going to do. I want Luthen to do something dope with a ship again. I want him to do some dope things, knock out some ships.
You think Maya's dead?
That's a good question, because they all kept saying different things. She probably not. Like did we?
They lost 40 people and 6 ships.
They were not reliable narrators, so I really was like, we don't know what anything is correct. They're all stupid and goofy. Did we meet the Maya character in the first season, or is this somebody who's kind of just mentioned?
I think it's I don't know. I'll have to look and see. I can't confidently say that we did for a fact meet her, but I do know that Saw Gerrera, the words Maya Pei came right from his mouth, and he mentions that she's a neo-Republican, basically thinking that she's going to bring the Republic back after it has fallen. So
okay,
and he doesn't believe that. So yeah, I know she's mentioned by name by Saw and discussed when they're trying to get them to all team up for the rebellion. He's not down with that group at all. So,
Gotcha. So hopefully we see this character.
yeah.
Get more context to that because it was just a lot of explaining and confusion, but it worked for the scene, of course,
Yeah.
and the goofiness of the rebels. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was cool. I was happy it's back. I'm looking forward to the next few episodes tomorrow night. So I'm like, yeah, let's get into it. And I got to stretch these episodes. I don't even watch, and I can't watch in one sitting. So like I watched one episode on Tuesday night, and then I
Mhm.
watched the other two on Wednesday morning. But I'm like, I want to kind of spread these out a bit. So
Yeah, I watch them back to back, and then I rewatch them later throughout the week and take
okay,
notes. Yeah.
gotcha. Cool.
Well, Jordan, Jocelyn, thank you for taking the time out of your
Of
day to
course.
discuss these things with me. HW Pete and whoever else was lurking in the chat. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch us discuss these things. We will be back next week, Monday at 5 p.m. again to discuss episodes 4, 5, and 6. Jocelyn will get caught up and be ready to go. Appreciate you, and we will talk to you all next week.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.